Cedric Willemse started almost every TikTok the same way. A sly wink, a slow shrug, and his favourite line, "It is what it is."
Welcome to the legend of Namibia, also known as Mr. It Is What It Is, Ozala.
Sometimes he was on the hood of his gunmetal Jeep Gladiator, custom build, the number plate bold, C-Boss. Behind him, the Cape Mountains cut across the sky like broken glass. He threw up rock and roll hand signs, like a man who knew he had already won. Other times, he was poolside in Namibia, sunglasses on, bottles on the table, with the look of living the life. He'd pour layers of dark stout, Irish whiskey, and Amarula into a tall glass, swirl it just right, then raise it to the camera and say, "You should try this." And people did. They watched. They followed. They liked. They shared. Here was a man in his 50s, not a teenager, not a TikTok dancer, but living like one, maybe even more. He called himself the Legend of Namibia and said it like it was his birthright. To some, he was just having fun. To others, he was a symbol of success, a local hero who'd made it big. But behind the cocktails, behind the camera filters, behind the metal shine of that beastly Jeep, something felt off. Every drink he mixed, every key he turned in that engine, every lazy flick of his wrist as he toasted the screen, it all carried a weight, a rhythm, a sound. Not music, but money. And not the kind you can earn in a lifetime working logistics at a state-owned company. No, this was something else, and someone was watching. In early February 2024, an anonymous tip-off slid across the desk of Anti-Corruption Commission Chief Investigator Obeati Inambao. Inside were details from Namcor's very own audit board. In a country still haunted by the fish rot scandal, anonymous tips remain one of the few weapons left in the public's arsenal. This one came quietly, but it carried the kind of moral weight no internal memo could contain. Whistleblowers rarely get statues. Their names are often buried or erased. But without them, entire empires of fraud would go unchecked. Inambao may be the face of the investigation, but somewhere in Namibia, someone made a choice to speak. And that choice cracked open the vault. The tip essentially asked a blunt question. How could a recently dismissed supply chain manager afford a garage of luxury vehicles, including a Jeep Gladiator priced at about 1.4 million Namibian dollars and a Mercedes-Benz GLE 400 north of 2 million? The tip alleged clandestine deposits, obscene rivers of cash bubbling into Cedric's personal bank accounts. Inambao smelled petroleum and panic. The paper trail led him backwards to August 2022, when Namcor's then managing director, Ims Malunga, pushed through an asset purchase agreement with a military contractor named Enecon. The deal, valued at roughly 53 million Namibian dollars, skipped every procurement checkpoint inside Namcor. No board sign-off, no budget clearance, just Malunga's signature, a promise and a ticking bomb. In corporate crime, policy isn't the problem, enforcement is. Namcor had financial checks. It had procurement policies. It had committees. But like so many state-owned enterprises, these were only as strong as the people willing to follow them. When executive management signed off on a multi-million-dollar asset deal without board approval, it wasn't a loophole, it was a decision. And when Willemse and others processed fuel supply orders well past credit limits, it wasn't a system failure, it was a deliberate override. Power, left unchecked, always finds ways to dress up fraud in paperwork. Part of the money from the Enecon deal, 35 million, was wired into an account co-signed by finance executive Jennifer Hamakwaya again, without the board's knowledge. It was as if someone switched off the refinery alarms and walked the vault door wide open. By mid-July 2022, Enecon and Namcor were waltzing in what one could easily have called a toxic business relationship. Not content with selling phantom assets, Enocon also wanted Namcor's fuel, lots of it. Between the 1st of August 2022 and the 4th of May 2023, Namcor tankers delivered petrol and diesel worth roughly $277 million Namibian dollars to Enocon and its sister outfit, Erongo Petroleum. In return, the state entity received overdraft promises, bounced checks, and investigators believe bribes sluiced into personal businesses linked to Willemse, Hamukwaya and commercial manager Olivia Dunajski. The money pirouetted through shell companies like Eco Trading and Quality Meat Supplies, names that sounded harmless until one noticed seven-figure transfers on the very days Namcor's treasury bled. At one point, Enocon used $35 million Namibian dollars of Namcor's own payment to settle an old debt it owed a Namcor subsidiary. Anti-Corruption Commission lead investigator Obeati Inambao told the Windhoek Magistrates Court that, basically, Enocon paid its IOU with Namcor's money. His voice was as dry and heavy as diesel soaking into sun-baked tar. From there, the cash sprouted tentacles, $9.5 million to a logistics firm tied to Victor Malema, $1.04 million to Parkwood Petroleum Logistics, Cedric's side hustle, then nearly $1 million to his personal account. The figures read like GPS coordinates to buried treasure. Meanwhile, Cedric's social feeds bloomed. He didn't post rose gold watches or sushi on yachts. No, Cedric Willemse's TikTok persona was built on something far more casual, yet strangely hypnotic. Glass in hand, always near a pool or a fire pit, he'd walk his followers through the steps of his latest cocktail creation before flashing a grin and signing off. His videos were raw, unfiltered, and carried a kind of charm that made you forget he was a 50-something oil executive, not a lifestyle influencer. The drinks flowed, the catchphrase repeated like gospel, "It is what it is." Viewers double-tapped, unaware of the trembling superstructure below. Internally, Namcor's credit limit for Enocon was $15.5 million. By July, it had been overdrawn by at least $20 million, and yet the pumps kept running. It was the corporate version of filling a leaking tanker with high-octane hope. July 2025, 8 accused, 6 companies, 71 counts. Public prosecutor Basan Lilungwe stood before magistrate Linus Samunzala and argued that granting bail would be a travesty against the public interest. Cedric, dressed in a brown shearling-style jacket with thick white fleece trimming and a clean cream shirt underneath, stepped into the courtroom, looking more influencer than accused. His hair was slicked back with precision, the same signature style his TikTok followers knew well. Though the gold chain he often flaunted in videos was notably absent, the image was unmistakably him. Water bottle in hand, lips pursed mid-sip. He wore a look that flickered between confidence and quiet unease, the kind of nervous energy that leaks through when the cameras aren't yours anymore. Cedric chose not to apply for release, perhaps the first time Mr. It Is What It Is began to signal to his followers that things were, in fact, not what they seemed. It's almost a cliché in modern corruption cases. The downfall begins not with a forensic audit, but with a flex. From South African tenderpreneurs flashing Cartier bracelets on Instagram, to West African politicians showing off private jets, it's the psychology of invincibility that betrays them. Experts call it conspicuous self-incrimination, a need to be seen, to be envied, to remind the world they've made it. For Cedric, the poolside cocktails, the Jeep, the sloganized persona were not just ego, they were armor, a distraction. But like all illusions, they eventually cracked under the weight of reality. Enocon insists it sold service station assets that Namcor simply failed to take over. Namcor claims no such assets ever materialized. The Ministry of Defence, to whom those very stations are contractually bound until 2031, remains a silent third party looming over the dispute, like a desert mirage that might solidify into hard liability. As of early August 2025, Cedric has not been convicted. He sits in the dock as a suspect, Not yet a criminal, but a man still wrapped in the presumption of innocence. Still, the prosecution's case is heavy. Page after page, number after number, a trail of transactions soaked in petrol and edged with smoke. If the charges hold, the money, allegedly siphoned, could fill enough fuel tanks to lap the Kalahari countless times. Far more than Cedric's TikTok camera ever circled his cocktail glass, capturing each pour, each grin, and every slow-motion toast as if it was scripture. Social media was never designed to hold people accountable. But in Cedric's case, it became something else. A visual diary of contradictions. Prosecutors didn't need to subpoena encrypted WhatsApp messages. They had timestamps, video angles, liquor brands, and audio quotes, each one willingly uploaded, publicly available, and now preserved in the digital amber of TikTok's algorithm. His audience saw entertainment. Investigators saw a lifestyle that didn't match the payroll of a dismissed logistics executive. In an ironic twist, the algorithm may have become the best cooperating witness the prosecution could ask for. And so we watch the court lights flicker, waiting to see whether the legend of Namibia will remain a catchy TikTok slogan or become a cautionary footnote in the country's battle against grand corruption. Oil is the lifeblood of nations. It moves armies, it props up presidents, it turns sand into skyscrapers and silence into profit. But in the wrong hands, it's not just fuel, it's fire. It burns through trust, through policy, and through the hopes of a nation already scarred by betrayal. Cedric isn't convicted, not yet. He still walks with the presumption of innocence. But the ledgers speak louder than any TikTok clip. The numbers don't smile, they don't pose, they don't lie. And in the end, legends don't fall, they unravel. One cocktail at a time, one deposit too many, one anonymous voice whispering, "Check again." It is what it is, but maybe, just maybe, it shouldn't be.
So, what do you think will happen next? Will Cedric Willemse beat the charges and walk free? Or will this be the moment Namibia draws a hard line in the sand against corruption in high places? With over 400 million Namibian dollars in question, and a paper trail that stretches across departments, deals, and drinks, the outcome of this case could echo far beyond one man's fate. Let us know what you think in the comments. Is this just the tip of the iceberg? Or is Cedric being made the face of a much bigger hidden machine? If you found this story compelling, make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications. We've got more deep dives, more corruption cases, and more untold stories from Namibia, South Africa, and beyond. Because sometimes the truth doesn't scream, it whispers from inside courtrooms, spreadsheets, and TikTok clips. And we'll be there to listen.
Welcome to the legend of Namibia, also known as Mr. It Is What It Is. Ozala.